When we look at the way human beings move through life, we see that much of what we do is not chosen. It is automatic. Someone speaks a harsh word to us, and we immediately respond with anger. Someone gives us praise, and instantly we feel uplifted. The sun shines, and we smile. Clouds gather, and we grow restless. In this way, our emotions, our state of mind, and even our sense of self are constantly pulled by external forces. We live as if we are puppets on invisible strings, reacting to every push and pull of the outside world. But awareness before reaction is the practice of cutting those strings. It is the space between what happens to you and what you choose to do in response. It is the moment when you feel the spark of anger rise, yet you pause. It is when sadness knocks on the door of your heart, and instead of drowning in it, you sit with it like an old friend. Awareness is the discipline of not being thrown around by every wave that comes your way. Imagine a pond. If the water is constantly disturbed, if stones are thrown into it without pause, the reflection on its surface is broken. You cannot see yourself clearly. You cannot see the trees, the sky, or the truth of what surrounds you. But if the pond is calm, undisturbed, it reflects everything with perfect clarity. The human mind is like this pond. When you react immediately, without awareness, you are throwing stones into your own waters. But when you remain still, when you practice awareness before reaction, you allow clarity to emerge. Consider the way a martial artist trains. In the heat of combat, if the opponent moves, and you instantly react without awareness, you fall into their rhythm. You become predictable. But if you are aware, if you observe first, you can respond in a way that breaks the rhythm. Awareness creates mastery, not only in martial arts, but in life. A person who reacts is controlled. A person who observes before reacting holds control. This principle is not only for conflict. It is for love. It is for communication. It is for every relationship we carry. When someone you care about disappoints you, the reactive mind wants to lash out, to protect itself, to accuse. But if awareness comes first, you pause long enough to ask what is truly happening here. Is my pain coming from their action or from my own expectation? This pause is everything. In this pause, empathy grows. In this pause, patience becomes possible. In this pause, love is preserved instead of shattered. Awareness before reaction also reveals the truth of your inner life. Many people believe they are angry because of someone else. They believe they are unhappy because of circumstances. But when you develop the habit of observing your emotions before acting on them, you begin to see the anger is mine. The sadness is mine. The fear is mine. The external world only triggered it. It did not create it. This realization is powerful because if it comes from within, it can be understood, it can be transformed, it can be mastered. Think of fire. A spark can fall onto dry grass and the reaction is immediate. Flames burst out of control. This is the reactive mind. But if the spark falls onto water, nothing happens. Awareness is that water. The sparks of life will always fall. Insults, disappointments, unexpected turns, losses. If your mind is dry and reactive, you burn again and again. If your mind is aware, the sparks cannot consume you. To practice awareness before reaction, one must slow down. Modern life teaches speed, quick replies, instant judgments, immediate gratification, but wisdom is found in slowness. Before you speak, breathe. Before you decide, observe. Before you move, understand. Even one breath, taken consciously before reacting, can change the entire outcome of a situation. That one breath creates space, and within that space is freedom. There is a saying in Zen, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose. Most people never live in that space. They rush from stimulus directly into response as if there were no choice at all. But awareness makes that space visible. And once you begin to see it, you realize that your freedom, your peace, and your power all live there. Sometimes, awareness before reaction means doing nothing at all. To the reactive mind, silence feels weak. But silence when chosen is strength. When you hold your tongue, when you allow the moment to pass, you are not suppressing. No, you are mastering. You are choosing not to let the moment of heat dictate the course of your life. This is not avoidance. It is sovereignty over yourself. When you practice awareness in this way, even your body changes. Your breathing slows. Your muscles soften. The storm inside you loses its grip. You begin to carry yourself differently, with calm, with patience, with steadiness. Others notice this. They feel it. They are drawn to it. Because in a world of endless reactivity, calmness is rare. Awareness becomes a magnet. It draws respect, it draws trust, and it draws love that is deeper because it is rooted in presence rather than impulse. Awareness before reaction is not a one-time achievement, it is a practice. Every day, life will give you opportunities to react. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Someone criticizes your work. Someone ignores you. In each of these moments, you are being asked, will you react as usual or will you pause? With practice, that pause grows longer. That space grows wider. And in that space, your life transforms. When most people hear the word strength, their mind creates an image of force, muscles straining, voices raised, the ability to dominate, to push, to resist. This is the common understanding of strength, hardness, toughness, the refusal to bend. But true strength, the strength that endures, does not live in hardness. True strength hides itself in softness. Consider water. It appears weak. It has no rigid shape, no sharp edge, no hardness. Yet water is stronger than stone. Over years, over centuries, rivers carve valleys, oceans shape cliffs, raindrops wear down mountains. What seems soft, when practiced consistently, proves stronger than what seems unbreakable. This is the paradox of softness. It is gentle, but it does not fail. It is yielding, but it never disappears. Softness is not weakness. Weakness collapses under pressure. Softness absorbs pressure, redirects it, and transforms it. In martial arts, if someone strikes with force and you meet them with equal force, there is only collision, pain for both sides. But if you meet force with softness, if you yield and flow around it, their strength dissolves into emptiness. The harder they push, the more they fall into the space you create. This is strength hidden in softness. In life, we see the same. When anger meets anger, fire only grows. But when anger meets calm, it begins to shrink. A raised voice finds no opponent in silence. Aggression loses its power when it cannot provoke a reaction. This is not passivity, it is mastery. Softness does not mean you allow harm. It means you choose the manner of your response. Instead of meeting fire with fire, you meet fire with water. And in the end, it is always water that wins. Strength in softness is also the strength to remain open. Many close their hearts as protection. They believe if they are guarded, if they are untouchable, they cannot be hurt. But a closed heart cannot feel deeply, cannot love fully, cannot connect in truth. To keep the heart soft is to risk pain, yes, but it is also to experience joy, intimacy, and the beauty of life in its fullest form. Softness requires courage, to be vulnerable, to be compassionate, to forgive when it would be easier to harden. That is strength that few possess. Think of a tree. In the storm, the branches that are rigid snap. But the branches that bend, the ones that are flexible, they survive. Flexibility is life. Rigidity is death. So it is with the mind, with the spirit, with the heart. To remain soft is to remain adaptable. It is the power to move with life rather than against it. There is another aspect of softness that is rarely understood: patience. In a world addicted to speed, patience appears weak. People want results now. They want love now, success now, change now. But the strongest forces in nature move slowly. Seeds take time to grow. Mountains rise over millennia. Rivers carve canyons one drop at a time. Patience is not inaction, it is the strength to remain steady, to keep faith, to allow the natural rhythm of life to unfold. Softness contains this patience, and patience, when combined with persistence, is unstoppable. Softness also has its place in communication. Harsh words cut, but they rarely heal. Soft words spoken with calm and clarity can penetrate deeper than any shout. A gentle tone can disarm hostility, open closed minds, and restore broken bonds. When you speak softly, not only in voice but in intention, you give the other person space to listen. And in that space, transformation becomes possible. But softness is not only for others, it is for oneself. Many live with inner harshness. They criticize themselves without mercy. They demand perfection. They judge every failure as weakness. This hardness toward the self creates exhaustion, bitterness, despair. To be soft with oneself is also strength. To forgive your mistakes, to allow yourself to rest, to nurture rather than punish, that is the soil where growth flourishes. Without softness, growth cannot take root. In the Shaolin tradition, strength is not measured only by how much weight you can lift or how many strikes you can endure. Strength is measured by balance, by harmony, by the ability to be powerful and yet peaceful. The fist can strike, but the hand can also heal. The voice can command, but it can also comfort. The body can resist, but it can also bow. This is the duality of true strength. Softness is not the absence of power. It is the wise use of power. Imagine holding a bird in your hand. If you grip too tightly, you kill it. If you hold too loosely, it flies away. Soft strength is knowing how to hold with care, not to crush, not to neglect, but to support life in its delicate balance. In relationships, in leadership, in self-mastery, this principle holds true. Hardness may dominate for a moment, but only softness sustains for a lifetime. Strength in softness is also about endurance. Hardness breaks under prolonged pressure. Softness adapts, endures, and remains. A river never forces its way through a mountain. It flows around it, over it, beneath it, until slowly, silently, the mountain is changed. The river does not rush, but it never stops. This is the essence of soft power, quiet, patient, unyielding in its persistence. So when you look for strength, do not only look for what is loud, what is forceful, what stands tall in defiance. Look also for what bends, what yields, what carries the silent patience of water and the gentle endurance of the wind. For within this softness lies a strength that cannot be broken, a power that does not fade, and a wisdom that continues long after force has burned itself out. When most people hear the word listening, they think it means waiting for their turn to speak. They hear the sound of words, but their mind is already busy crafting a reply, preparing a defense, forming an opinion. This is not listening. This is waiting. True listening is something much deeper. It is not with the ears alone. It is not with the mind that analyzes. It is with the whole being. Deep listening is the art of becoming empty. Empty of judgment. Empty of the need to be right. Empty of the desire to control the conversation. Only when you are empty can you truly receive what the other person is giving. Most people hear voices, but they do not hear hearts. They notice the sound, but they miss the silence beneath it. To listen deeply is to go beyond the words, into the pauses, into the tone, into the unspoken. Imagine a musician. If you only hear the notes being played, you miss half the song. The true beauty of music is not only in the sound, but in the silence between the notes. In the same way, in conversation, the silence reveals as much as the words. A pause before someone speaks can hold hesitation, fear, or pain. A quiet tone can carry more truth than 1,000 loud explanations. Deep listening means you are attuned to these subtleties like an instrument finely tuned to vibrations. To listen deeply requires stillness inside. If your mind is noisy, filled with opinions and distractions, you cannot hear another person. You only hear the echo of yourself bouncing inside your head. But when you are still, when you place aside your inner noise, you become like a clear lake. Whatever enters is reflected perfectly. In such presence, the other person feels safe. They feel understood even before you say a word. When someone speaks and you listen only to respond, you remain on the surface. But when you listen deeply, you dive beneath the surface into the world they are living in. You step into their perspective. You walk into their emotions. You begin to feel what they feel. This is not sympathy, it is empathy. Sympathy stands at a distance and says, I see you suffer. Empathy walks into the room and says, I feel your suffering with you. Deep listening is the doorway to empathy. In relationships, this is everything. How many conflicts arise not because of real harm, but because someone feels unheard? How many loves grow distant, not because the heart has died, but because the ear has closed? When a person feels listened to deeply, even their pain becomes lighter. Even their anger begins to dissolve. Listening is often more healing than advice, more powerful than solutions, more comforting than explanations. Think of a child who falls and hurts themselves. Often, the parent rushes to give solutions. It's okay, you're fine. Don't cry. But what the child truly wants is not a solution. They want presence. They want someone to hold their pain, to listen to their tears without pushing them away. Adults are no different. We want to know someone is there with us, not rushing to fix us, not dismissing our emotions, but listening deeply. This is the strength of listening. It carries the message, you are not alone. Deep listening is also listening to what is not being said. Many truths hide behind silence. People often cannot speak directly of their fears, their longings, their hurts. They circle around them with words, hoping someone will understand without them needing to expose themselves completely. When you listen deeply, you catch what lies between the lines. You notice the eyes looking away, the hesitation in the voice, the words repeated again and again. In these small details, the deeper truth is revealed. Listening deeply is not passive. It is active attention. Your body listens. Your eyes listen. Your silence listens. When you lean slightly forward, when you nod without words, when you breathe slowly and match the rhythm of the one speaking, you are telling them, I am here with you. And that message, even without advice, has the power to transform the atmosphere between you. But deep listening does not only apply to others, it applies to oneself. Most people live disconnected from their own inner voice. They feel something, but they ignore it. They hear the whispers of intuition, but they cover it with noise. To live fully, you must also listen deeply to yourself. When sadness comes, listen. When joy arises, listen. When the body aches, listen. Inside you, there is a constant dialogue between the body, the mind, and the spirit. Most suffering comes because we do not listen to this dialogue. We ignore the signs, we silence the voice within, and then we wonder why we feel lost. Deep listening turns the attention inward, allowing us to reconnect with the wisdom already living in us. In meditation, this becomes clear. As you sit, you begin to hear not only the sounds around you, but the layers within you. You hear your breath steady or shallow. You hear your thoughts rushing or gentle. You hear your emotions restless or calm. At first, it may feel overwhelming. But with practice, this inner listening brings peace. Because when you listen, you stop fighting. You stop running. You allow everything to be heard, and in being heard, it begins to settle. Deep listening is not about agreement. You do not need to agree with everything you hear. You do not need to accept every story as truth, but you need to hear it fully, without interruption, without dismissal. To listen deeply is to respect the humanity in the other, to give them the gift of your presence, without trying to control what arises. There is a Zen saying, when you listen to someone deeply, they begin to hear themselves more clearly. Often, people do not even know what they truly think or feel until they speak it into the space of your listening. Your silence, your openness becomes a mirror. They see themselves reflected more clearly through your presence. And this reflection can be the beginning of healing, of clarity, of change. There is a truth many people struggle to understand. Love without boundaries is not love, it is dependency. Respect without limits is not respect, it is submission. To live with dignity, one must learn the art of boundaries. And boundaries are not walls. They are not built from anger, nor from fear. They are the natural expression of self-respect. A person who does not set boundaries is like a house with open doors and windows, day and night. Anyone may enter, anyone may take, anyone may rearrange the furniture. At first, it feels generous, it feels open. But slowly the house begins to lose its order. The warmth disappears. The one who lives inside no longer feels safe in their own home. This is what life becomes without boundaries. Your energy is taken, your time is consumed, and your spirit is drained. To set boundaries is to close the door, not out of hostility, but out of care. It is to say, I welcome you, but not at the cost of myself. I give to you, but not by emptying myself completely. I love you, but not by betraying myself. This is self-respect expressed through action. It is not selfishness, it is wisdom. Many confuse softness with weakness. They believe that to be kind is to accept everything. But kindness without boundaries becomes exploitation. A river is beautiful because it has banks that hold it in place. Without its banks, the river spreads, loses direction, and becomes a flood that destroys rather than nourishes. In the same way, a life without boundaries loses its flow. Self-respect provides the structure, the container, that allows love and kindness to remain clear, steady, and life-giving. Boundaries are not only about saying no to others, they are also about saying yes to yourself. When you respect yourself, you honor your time, your rest, your values, your path. You no longer sacrifice your well-being for the sake of pleasing others. You no longer silence your voice so that others may feel comfortable. You no longer shrink yourself to fit into spaces that do not honor who you are. Boundaries remind you that you, too, are worthy of care. There is strength in learning to say no, not with anger, not with judgment, but with calm certainty. When you say no, you are not rejecting the person. You are protecting your energy. You are affirming that your life is not open for misuse. And strangely, when people see that you respect yourself enough to set limits, their respect for you often grows. Because deep down, every human being recognizes the truth that dignity and love must stand together. But boundaries are not rigid, they are living. Just as the body adapts to the seasons, boundaries must adapt to situations. Sometimes you give more, sometimes less. Sometimes you open wide, sometimes you close tightly. What matters is that the choice comes from awareness, not fear. Boundaries built from fear are walls. Boundaries built from respect are gates. Walls block life from entering. Gates allow life to flow, but with discernment. In relationships, boundaries create depth. Without them, love becomes shallow, confused with control, dependence, or sacrifice. When two people respect each other's boundaries, love is free. It is not about possession. It is not about losing oneself in the other. It is about walking side by side as two whole beings, not as fragments searching to complete each other. Boundaries allow love to be shared without destroying individuality. Even in spiritual practice, boundaries play a role. You may sit in meditation, but without setting the boundary of time, distraction enters. You may try to live with compassion, but without the boundary of discernment, compassion becomes enabling. Boundaries guide the practice so that it remains pure. Self-respect is the foundation upon which discipline is built. To live without boundaries is to hand over the steering wheel of your life. Others will drive you where they wish. You will be carried by demands, by opinions, by expectations. But to live with self-respect is to place your hands firmly on the wheel again. You decide the direction. You decide the pace. You decide when to carry someone and when to let them walk on their own. Self-respect also means respecting your inner truth, even when it is inconvenient for others. It means trusting your intuition, honoring your limits, and refusing to betray your values for acceptance. Often, people fear that if they set boundaries, they will lose love. But the truth is the opposite. Any love that demands the destruction of your boundaries is not love, it is control. Any relationship that punishes self-respect is not a relationship, it is a prison. When you begin to respect yourself, you teach others how to treat you. If you allow disrespect, it will continue. If you accept neglect, it will grow. But if you stand firm, with quiet strength, you draw into your life those who honor your worth. Boundaries filter out what does not belong so that what truly belongs may remain. In the Shaolin teachings, there is a lesson: the warrior does not fight every battle. He chooses carefully. If he fought each time someone provoked him, his energy would be gone before the true challenge appeared. Boundaries work the same way. Without them, you exhaust yourself on battles that do not matter. With them, you conserve your strength for what is meaningful, for what aligns with your path. Boundaries are not only for protection, they are for creation. When you set the boundary of time, you create space for focus. When you set the boundary of silence, you create space for inner peace. When you set the boundary of rest, you create space for renewal. Without boundaries, life becomes scattered. With boundaries, life becomes intentional. And self-respect is the root of all of it. Without self-respect, you will always bend until you break. You will always give until you are empty. You will always silence yourself until your truth disappears. But with self-respect, you stand quietly in your own center. You give freely, but not foolishly. You love fully, but not blindly. You open widely, but not without discernment. You human beings often believe attraction is something physical, something external. They think it is the way someone looks, the shape of their body, the tone of their voice, or the style of their clothing. But these are only surface-level impressions. They fade quickly. What truly attracts is deeper. It is invisible. It is the energy a person carries within them. Every person, whether they realize it or not, is radiating energy. Some enter a room and instantly the atmosphere feels lighter, calmer, more peaceful. Others enter and the space feels heavy, tense, uncomfortable. This is not explained by appearance alone. It is the silent language of energy. And it is this language, more than any words or actions, that determines the depth of connection we are able to create with others. When your energy is restless, others feel unsettled around you. When your energy is balanced, others feel safe. When your energy is joyful, others feel uplifted. You may say nothing, yet your presence communicates everything. Attraction flows not from how loudly you demand attention, but from the quiet strength of the energy you embody. Energy does not lie. A person can put on a smile, but if inside they are bitter, that bitterness is felt. A person can speak kind words, but if inside they are full of anger, that anger leaks out. Energy reveals the truth even when words try to hide it. This is why authenticity is magnetic. When your inner world matches your outer expression, others feel at ease. They sense alignment. They sense truth. And truth always attracts more deeply than performance. To cultivate energy that attracts is to cultivate your inner state. It is not about adding layers to yourself, but about removing the noise that covers your natural essence. When you practice awareness, your energy becomes clear. When you practice patience, your energy becomes steady. When you practice compassion, your energy becomes warm. These qualities are not forced. They radiate naturally from within, and people are drawn to them because they are rare. Imagine two tuning forks. When one is struck, the other begins to vibrate at the same frequency without being touched. This is resonance. Humans are like this too. When you hold a calm frequency, others who are chaotic begin to calm down. When you live at a frequency of love, those around you feel it and begin to rise toward it. This is the secret of attraction through energy, eh? You do not chase, you do not demand, you simply embody, and others resonate with what you carry. In relationships, this is powerful. Many chase love with desperation. They think, if I do more, if I give more, if I prove myself more, love will come. But desperation repels. It carries the energy of lack, of emptiness, of fear. Deep love cannot be attracted from a place of fear. It is attracted from wholeness. When you carry the energy of fullness, when you are at peace with yourself, when you respect yourself, when you live with joy in your own presence, then love comes naturally. Not because you chase it, but because you radiate it. Energy is felt most strongly in silence. Words can deceive, but silence cannot. Sit quietly with someone for a few minutes, and you will know more about them than in hours of conversation. You will feel whether they are restless, whether they are angry, whether they are at peace. Energy does not need to shout. It whispers, and in that whisper is more truth than any speech can contain. To attract through energy is also to release what drains you. If your mind is full of resentment, if your heart is burdened by grudges, your energy will carry that heaviness. People may not know why, but they will feel it. Forgiveness is not only for others. It is for your own energy. Releasing bitterness frees your frequency. Releasing envy clears your presence. Releasing fear opens your space. When you let go of what weighs you down, you begin to radiate naturally again, like the sun that shines when the clouds move away. There is also the energy of intention. When you move through life with clarity of purpose, your energy is directed, strong, and unwavering. People are drawn to those who know where they are going because such energy provides stability. Unclear energy creates confusion. Focused energy inspires trust. Attraction grows when others sense the clarity of your inner compass. Even the body reflects the energy inside. A person with anxious energy carries tension in their shoulders, in their breath, in their movements. A person with calm energy moves slowly, breathes deeply, and carries an aura of presence. You cannot fake these things for long because they are not performances. They are the natural expression of what lives inside you. When you shift your inner energy, your outer presence changes without effort. In the Shaolin path, it is taught that energy follows the mind. Where the mind goes, energy flows. If your mind is scattered, your energy is scattered. If your mind is rooted, your energy is rooted. This is why practices such as meditation, breathing, and stillness are powerful. They collect the mind, and in doing so, they collect the energy. A person who has gathered their energy shines differently. Others notice it even without understanding it. They feel drawn because deep down everyone longs for balance. Attraction through energy is not about controlling others. It is about mastering yourself. It is about becoming so steady, so authentic, so clear in your inner being that others naturally want to be near you. They feel nourished in your presence, not drained. They feel accepted, not judged. They feel safe, not threatened. And this safety, this warmth, is what allows love to deepen. When your energy is aligned, you no longer worry about who comes or who goes. You no longer chase and you no longer fear. You know that what belongs to your frequency will find you, and what does not will fade away. Life becomes less about seeking and more about allowing, less about forcing and more about embodying. Attraction is no longer something you do, it is something you are. When people speak of love, they often confuse it with attachment. They believe that to love someone means to hold tightly, to claim ownership, to make that person the source of their happiness. But this is not love, it is dependence. Attachment binds, love frees. Attachment clings in fear. Love opens in trust. To understand the difference is to move from shallow love to deep love. Attachment comes from the mind. It says, you belong to me. Without you, I am incomplete. Without you, I cannot be happy. It is born from fear, the fear of loss, the fear of being alone, the fear of not being enough. Love without attachment arises from the heart. It says, I see you. I honor you, I walk with you, but I do not own you. I love you because I choose to, not because I must. Imagine holding water in your hands. If you close your fists tightly, trying to hold on to it, the water escapes. The harder you grasp, the faster it slips away. But if you keep your palms open, the water remains. This is the nature of love. The more tightly you try to possess it, the quicker it dies. The more gently you allow it to flow, the longer it stays alive. Attachment makes demands. It says, prove your love to me. Do what I want. Be who I expect. True love does not demand, it accepts. It sees the other person not as an object to be shaped, but as a soul to be witnessed. When you love without attachment, you no longer try to control. You allow the other to grow, to change, to become who they are meant to be. And in that freedom, love deepens. Attachment fears endings. It is always grasping for security, always worried that the bond may break. This fear poisons the present moment because it lives in anxiety about the future. Love without attachment is different. It does not deny impermanence. It knows that everything in life is changing. Every flower will one day wither. Every day will one day end. But instead of clinging, love without attachment cherishes. It does not try to stop time, it savors it. It does not try to guarantee forever, it honors today. Attachment creates suffering because it turns love into a transaction. I gave you this, so you must give me that. I sacrifice for you, so you owe me your loyalty. But love without attachment is not a trade, it is a gift. A gift is given freely without expectation of return. If something comes back, it is received with gratitude. If nothing returns, the love itself was enough. This kind of love cannot be disappointed because it was never dependent on outcome. In relationships, attachment often disguises itself as passion. People believe jealousy proves depth. They believe control proves care. But jealousy is the fear of losing what you think you own. And control is the insecurity of not trusting what you cannot hold. These are shadows, not love. Love without attachment is not afraid. It trusts, it breathes, it gives space. And in that space, two souls can meet not as captor and captive, but as equals walking side by side. Think of the way the sun loves the earth. The sun shines freely. It does not ask the earth to reflect its light. It does not demand, it does not cling, it does not withhold. It simply shines, and because it shines, life flourishes. This is the example of love without attachment. It does not say, I will love you only if. It says, I love you, and in this love, I am free. When you practice love without attachment, you also stop losing yourself in the other. Attachment often blurs identities. You forget where you end and where the other begins. You make their moods your moods, their choices your choices, their path your path. In the process, you abandon yourself. But true love is not about abandoning the self. It is about bringing the fullness of yourself into connection. Two whole beings meeting, not two halves trying to complete each other. Attachment creates weight. It says, you must carry my happiness. You must carry my loneliness. You must carry my emptiness. No human being can carry such a burden for long. Love without attachment removes this weight. It says, I am responsible for my happiness. I am whole within myself. And from this wholeness, I choose to share my love with you. When love comes from fullness instead of lack, it nourishes instead of draining. In meditation, this truth becomes clear. When you sit quietly, you begin to notice how often the mind grasps. It clings to pleasant sensations, trying to extend them. It resists unpleasant sensations, trying to escape them. This grasping and resisting is attachment, and it creates constant tension. But when you practice letting go, simply allowing whatever arises to come and go, you taste freedom. You realize that love too must flow in this way. To hold it tightly is to create suffering. To let it flow naturally is to experience peace. There is also a connection between love without attachment and respect. When you love someone without attachment, you respect their individuality. You allow them to walk their path, even if it does not always align with yours. You celebrate their freedom rather than fearing it. Attachment tries to shrink the other, to keep them small, to keep them near. True love encourages growth, even if that growth sometimes leads to distance. For what matters is not possession, but the honoring of the soul's journey. Attachment is noisy. It is filled with demands, expectations, fears, and conditions. Love without attachment is quiet. It is presence. It is a calm hand held without pressure, a gaze that says, I see you, a silence that needs no words. It is not desperate to prove itself because it knows its value. It does not cling to being noticed because it shines on its own. And perhaps the deepest aspect of love without attachment is this: it allows love to remain love. When love is tied to fear, to control, to need, it decays. What was once light becomes shadow. But when love is free, it renews itself endlessly. It is not drained by demands. It is not suffocated by control. It is not broken by impermanence. It exists in its pure form, simple and profound, like the open sky that holds both the storm and the sunshine without trying to grasp either one.